My parents and sister tried to erase my children from the family, one event at a time. A perfect family photo without them. School events they were suddenly not welcome at. Holidays where they weren't invited. It was subtle at first, but when I realized what was happening, I decided to fight. And I wasn't prepared for how far they'd go to stop me. So here it goes. I'm a 34M. Grew up in Houston, pretty typical suburban life. My sister Jessica, 37F, was always the golden child. If you've heard that phrase before, trust me, she invented it. She was the straight-A student, the debate team star, went Ivy League, became a lawyer at some top firm. My parents could not stop bragging about her. Meanwhile, I was the one who liked cars and got my hands dirty. I opened my own auto repair shop when I was 27. Not exactly what my parents had dreamed of. They've always seen Jessica as refined, successful, someone who brings pride to the family. I've always felt like the tolerated sibling. The black sheep, but without the tattoos and criminal record to earn the title. Now, I'm married to an amazing woman, Sarah, 33F, and we have 2 kids, Logan, 10F, and Macy, 7F. They're my world. And honestly, they're incredible humans, kids, funny, kind, curious. But they've always been too loud or too wild in my parents' eyes. Especially compared to Jessica's son, Henry, 8 years, who they call their perfect little gentleman. I used to brush it off. I figured families aren't perfect. I thought that deep down, my parents loved all their grandkids. I convinced myself they just didn't know how to relate to kids like Logan and Macy. Boy, was I wrong. It started small. Subtle things, easy to excuse. My mom would forget to invite my kids to baking days with Henry. My dad would say Henry looked just like Grandpa and never mention Logan. They gave Henry a bike for his birthday and sent Logan a $10 Amazon gift card. I told myself they were just getting old. Distracted. I didn't want to be that guy who accuses his own parents of favoritism. But then last fall, things stopped being subtle. And I realized they weren't just playing favorites anymore. They were erasing my kids. Last September, my dad had some health issues, nothing life-threatening, but enough to scare us. He needed surgery and a pretty long recovery. Naturally, the whole family tried to rally. I visited more, brought the kids over to cheer him up, helped around the house. One Sunday, after a long hospital visit, my mom suggested something. She said, we should do a big family photo shoot this fall, so we have nice photos of everyone together. For your dad's album. Honestly, it sounded like a great idea. I was happy to be included. It felt like a small olive branch. Like maybe things were shifting in a better direction. We started planning it. Jessica, of course, took over the organizing. She picked the photographer, booked a park, coordinated outfits. Yeah, that level of control. I didn't mind. I was just glad we'd all be in the photos. Especially for my dad. He adores Logan and Macy. The kids were excited too. They love Grandpa and Grandma days. Then, about a week before the shoot, I got that text from my mom. It hit like a punch in the gut. It read, Tom, Jessica and I have been thinking, it might be better if Logan and Macy didn't come this time. They're too energetic. The photos need to be calm and polished. I just stared at it. For a long time. I must have read it 10 times before it sank in. A family photo shoot. For my sick dad? Without his grandkids? Without my kids? I couldn't believe it. At first, I told myself, this had to be a misunderstanding. Maybe they just meant one shot with the adults and one with the kids later. Surely no one would seriously cut Logan and Macy out entirely. So I called Jessica. She picked up, sounding breezy, like nothing was wrong. I asked, is this a joke? They're your dad's grandkids. She replied, totally calm. Tom, you know your kids. Especially Macy, she can't sit still for photos. We're doing this for Dad's album. It needs to be perfect. I was so stunned I couldn't even speak for a second. Finally, I said, what about Henry? Part 5, Thanksgiving, the breaking point. After the school incident, I was rattled. For the first time in my life, I felt like my sister wasn't just trying to one-up me anymore. She was actively trying to sideline my kids. And my parents were enabling it. I didn't know what to do. Part of me wanted to go scorched earth, call everyone out publicly. Another part wanted to protect Logan and Macy from the fallout. So I stayed quiet. For a little while. Then came November. Thanksgiving at the family ranch near San Antonio had been a tradition for years. Ever since we were kids. My parents rented the same place every time, big house, horses, pay rides, the works. It was the one time of year we all actually came together. The kids loved it. Logan had been talking about riding horses again. Macy had picked out a cowboy hat. They were counting down the days. And then, I never got an invite. No email. No call. Nothing. At first, I thought it was an oversight. My parents can be forgetful. So I texted my mom directly. Hey, just checking, what's the plan for Thanksgiving this year? The kids are really excited. The reply I got back chilled me. Tom, this year we're doing an adult circle Thanksgiving. There will be a separate picnic for the kids next week. Jessica is organizing it. I swear, my jaw actually dropped. An adult circle? Are you kidding me? Henry, 8 years old, was obviously going to the main event. But somehow my kids needed a separate picnic? Separate. As in, not part of the family. I showed the text to Sarah. She just stared at it for a long time, then said quietly, "They're trying to erase them." Completely. That night, I sat in the living room after the kids went to bed. Logan's cowboy hat was sitting on the couch. Macy's boots were by the door. And I just lost it. I cried. I'm not ashamed to admit it. I cried out of anger, sadness, helplessness, all of it. Because it wasn't about me anymore. It was about my kids. My innocent, sweet kids who had done nothing wrong. Who were now being treated like second-class members of their own family. That's when something inside me shifted. I told Sarah, "That's it. I'm done. I'm not letting this happen. I'm going to fight." I didn't know exactly how yet. But I knew this. I would not let them erase my children. Jessica. Henry is used to formal events. And the photographer knows how to handle him. I swear to you, I nearly threw my phone. I was shaking. But I managed to keep it together. I hung up and called my mom. I told her flat out, "If my kids aren't welcome at the shoot, we're not coming at all." And you know what she said? "Tom, don't be dramatic. It's just a photo. Don't ruin this for your father." That's when something clicked. For the first time, I started thinking, this isn't about one photo. It's not about my kids' energy levels. It's about how they want to present this perfect, polished family, one where my kids don't fit in. I told Sarah that night. She hugged me and said, "I think this is just the beginning." I didn't want to believe her, but she was right. After that phone call, I thought maybe, things would cool down. We didn't go to the photo shoot. I told my mom and Jessica again, clearly. If Logan and Macy aren't included, we're not participating. Period. No response from Jessica. Just a thumbs up emoji from my mom. That stung more than I expected. I tried to move on. I focused on my kids. They were disappointed. Logan kept asking when we'd take fun pictures with Grandpa. Macy didn't fully get it but kept saying, "I can wear my pink dress for pictures." I didn't have the heart to tell them why we weren't going. About a week later, I found out by accident that the photo shoot had already happened. My cousin's wife sent me a message casual. "Saw the pics from your family shoot. Looked nice. The park was gorgeous." Wait, what? Turns out my mom had posted a batch of rehearsal photos in the family's private Facebook group. A group that, surprise, Sarah and I had been removed from months ago. My cousin's wife thought we were still in it. She sent me a few screenshots. And there it was. Jessica, her husband, Henry, my parents. No mention of my kids. No mention of me. No space left for us in the pictures. What really twisted the knife? The caption under one of Jessica's photos. "This year we're going for a calm, elegant family look. No chaos." I'm not gonna lie. I sat there staring at the screen, fist clenched. It wasn't just passive exclusion anymore. They were sending a message. My kids were the chaos. We didn't fit the image anymore. Sarah found me like that. I showed her the screenshots. She just sighed and said, "It's happening. They're cutting us out." That was when I first said it out loud. They're trying to erase our kids from the family. The words felt heavy, but real. And then, it started spreading outside the family. I honestly thought, foolishly, that maybe this would just stay in the family. That as long as I kept my head down, it wouldn't bleed into other parts of our life. I was wrong. So wrong. About a month after the photo shoot, now we're into October, the school sent out notices about the annual charity fall fair. Big event. The kids love it. There's always a fundraiser, a sports tournament, and the PTA picks family representatives, basically parents who sponsor the event and help coordinate booths. I'd done this for years. It was something I genuinely enjoyed. I donated money for sports equipment every year. Logan was excited because he wanted to help run the basketball shootout booth this time. I filled out the volunteer form like usual. Didn't think twice. Then, about 2 weeks later, I got an email from the PTA chair. Tom, thank you for your application. Unfortunately, the board has selected representatives for this year's sponsorship committee, and there are no more available spots. Weird, right? They'd never had limited spots before. Then came the kicker. I found out, through another parent, someone I'm friendly with, that Jessica had recently joined the PTA board, and that she was now heading the sponsorship committee. Coincidence? Maybe, if not for what came next. This mom friend texted me later, hesitantly. Hey, just so you know, I overheard Jessica saying something about Logan. She told another board member that your kids don't represent the school very well at official events and that it might be better to avoid that look this year. I read that text 3 times. I couldn't believe what I was seeing. My son, my kids, don't represent the school well. Are you kidding me? I was shaking. I called Sarah immediately. She could barely contain her fury. I kept thinking, this can't be happening. They wouldn't go that far, would they? But there it was. They crossed a line. It wasn't about a photo anymore. They were actively trying to push my kids out of public spaces to make them invisible. I wanted to confront Jessica right then and there. But Sarah stopped me. She said, not yet. We need to be smart about this. And thank God she did. Because things were about to get even uglier. After the school incident, I was rattled. For the first time in my life, I felt like my sister wasn't just trying to one-up me anymore. She was actively trying to sideline my kids. And my parents were enabling it. I didn't know what to do. Part of me wanted to go scorched earth, call everyone out publicly. Another part wanted to protect Logan and Macy from the fallout. So I stayed quiet. For a little while. Then came November. Thanksgiving at the family ranch near San Antonio had been a tradition for years. Ever since we were kids. My parents rented the same place every time: big house, horses, hay rides, the works. It was the one time of year we all actually came together. The kids loved it. Logan had been talking about riding horses again. Macy had picked out a cowboy hat. They were counting down the days. And then, I never got an invite. No email. No call. Nothing. At first, I thought it was an oversight. My parents can be forgetful. So I texted my mom directly. Hey, just checking, what's the plan for Thanksgiving this year? The kids are really excited. The reply I got back chilled me. Tom, this year we're doing an adult circle Thanksgiving. There will be a separate picnic for the kids next week. Jessica is organizing it. I swear, my jaw actually dropped. An adult circle? Are you kidding me? Henry, 8 years old, was obviously going to the main event. But somehow my kids needed a separate picnic? Separate. As in, not part of the family. I showed the text to Sarah. She just stared at it for a long time, then said quietly, they're trying to erase them. Completely. That night, I sat in the living room after the kids went to bed. Logan's cowboy hat was sitting on the couch. Macy's boots were by the door. And I just lost it. I cried. I'm not ashamed to admit it. I cried out of anger, sadness, helplessness, all of it. Because it wasn't about me anymore. It was about my kids. My innocent, sweet kids who had done nothing wrong. Who were now being treated like second-class members of their own family. That's when something inside me shifted. I told Sarah, that's it. I'm done. I'm not letting this happen. I'm going to fight. I didn't know exactly how yet. But I knew this. I would not let them erase my children. After that night, after the Thanksgiving text, something in me hardened. I've always been the type to avoid family drama. I'm not a confrontational guy. But this wasn't drama anymore. This was discrimination against my kids. And I couldn't let it stand. The first thing I did was start gathering everything. Sarah helped me. We sat down after the kids went to bed, pulled out our phones, and started documenting. Why'd Evie checkmark the text from my mom about adult circle Thanksgiving? Why'd Evie checkmark screenshots of the PDA rejection email? Why'd Evie checkmark my mom's original text about the photo shoot? Why'd Evie checkmark the screenshots my cousin's wife had sent from the private family Facebook group, the one we weren't even in anymore? Then I started reaching out carefully. First, the mom who had told me about Jessica's PDA comments. I asked if she'd be willing to put anything in writing. She said, Tom, I don't want to get dragged into a family fight, but yes, I'll message what I heard. She sent me a text that night. I overheard Jessica say your kids don't represent the school well and it would be better if they weren't part of the sponsorship committee this year. Boom. Evidence. Then, I called Logan's teacher, an amazing guy, super supportive. I asked him, off the record, "Have you heard anything about my kids being left out of events?" He paused and then said, "Tom, honestly, the PDA did push back about having Logan represent the class at the fall fair. They didn't say why, but it was obvious." I asked if I could record him saying that. He agreed, bless him. I had the recording saved the same night. It was surreal, sitting there building a literal case about my own family. But the more I found, the more certain I became that I wasn't imagining this. This was a coordinated exclusion. A pattern. Sarah was the one who pushed me to take the next step. She said, "You need legal advice. This is bigger than family drama now. This is discrimination, and it's affecting the kids at school." She was right. So, I called a lawyer. I'd never hired a lawyer before, not for anything like this. I'll be honest, I was nervous making that call. Part of me kept thinking, am I blowing this out of proportion? Is it crazy to bring in a lawyer over family stuff? But then I'd look at the screenshots, or the PDA email, or hear Logan asking, "When can I do the basketball booth?" in that hopeful voice. And I knew I wasn't crazy. This was real, and it was hurting my kids. The lawyer I called, her name's Amanda, came highly recommended by a friend of Sarah's. She specializes in school law and discrimination cases. Sharp as hell. At the first meeting, I laid everything out, the texts, the Facebook posts, the PDA stuff, the teacher recording. Amanda listened carefully. No judgment. When I finished, she leaned forward and said, "Tom, this is serious. You're not overreacting. You have clear evidence of targeted exclusion of your children from school activities, and that's a violation of the school's inclusion policies. You also have a pattern of family-driven discrimination bleeding into public spaces." She pulled out a legal pad and started writing. White heavy checkmark step 1. File an official complaint with the PDA and the school district. White heavy checkmark step 2. Draft a public letter to the family, factual, unemotional, stating exactly what's happening. White heavy checkmark step 3. Prepare for possible retaliation. She warned me, people like this, they fight dirty. Hearing it laid out like that was both terrifying and empowering. I asked her, should I be worried about blowback on the kids? She was blunt. There's already blowback. The only way to protect them now is to go on offense. Shine light on it. Make it clear this won't be tolerated. That hit hard. I left her office with a plan and a folder full of paperwork. When I got home, Sarah hugged me and said, "I'm proud of you. No matter what happens, we're doing the right thing." Later that night, after we put the kids to bed, I sat down at the kitchen table and started drafting the family letter. And let me tell you, writing those words was one of the hardest things I've ever done. I sat at the kitchen table until almost 2 a.m. that night, staring at the blank document on my laptop. How do you even start a letter like this? To your own parents, your own sister. I kept thinking about Logan and Macy, about how excited they'd been for Thanksgiving, about the way Logan looked when I told him we weren't going, how Macy kept asking, when is Grandpa coming to visit us? That was all the motivation I needed. So I started typing. And this is more or less what I wrote. To my family, I've stayed quiet about a lot of things over the years, but I can't stay quiet anymore. My children are as much a part of this family as anyone else. They deserve to be treated with love and respect, not as an inconvenience or an embarrassment. I will no longer tolerate situations where they are excluded for the sake of someone else's image of what this family should look like. It started with the photo shoot, then the PDA incident, and now the Thanksgiving exclusion. This is not coincidence. It is a pattern. I want to be very clear. If anyone chooses to see Logan and Macy as less than or not worthy of full inclusion in this family, that is their choice. But I will not allow my children to be disrespected, isolated, or erased. And yes, I am pursuing legal action regarding the discrimination they have faced at school. I have documentation, witnesses, and legal counsel. This stops now. Tom. I read it over and over. I wanted to make sure it wasn't angry, just honest. Just facts. When it felt right, I sent it. I sent it to my mom, my dad, Jessica, and a few extended family members who were in that private Facebook group. Then I closed the laptop and just sat there. My heart was pounding. Sarah sat beside me, took my hand, and said, "No matter what happens next, you did the right thing." But oh boy, the next morning. That's when the floodgates opened. The next morning, I woke up to my phone blowing up. I had text after text from my mom, my dad, and Jessica. The letter had hit them like a bomb. The first one came from my mom. "Tom, What are you thinking? This is a disgrace to the whole family. You are overreacting. How could you humiliate us like this? Then from Jessica. You and your children are the problem. You're embarrassing yourself, and them, even more. You're being ridiculous. And from my dad, short and cold. If you publicly attack your sister again, don't expect to be part of this family. I can't describe what that felt like. My stomach turned. My hands were shaking. Part of me expected it, but it still hit hard. Don't expect to be part of this family. Coming from my own father. Sarah read the messages with me. She wrapped her arms around me and said, "They're showing you exactly who they are. Stay strong." I was trying, but it was hard. Then, something I didn't expect happened. Around noon, I got a call from an unknown number. I almost didn't answer, but something told me to pick up. It was Emily, my older cousin. We hadn't talked in years. She's one of the few extended family members who had stayed a bit on the sidelines of the whole Jessica is perfect parade. She said, "Tom, I read your letter, and I want you to know you are absolutely right. This is wrong, and you're not alone." I nearly broke down right then. Turns out, Emily works in school administration in a neighboring district. She knows how PTA politics can get weaponized. She said, "If you want, I can help with the school side of things. You have no idea how many parents just sit back and let this stuff happen. It has to stop." Hearing that gave me so much strength. For the first time, I felt like maybe, just maybe, we weren't alone in this fight. By that afternoon, Amanda, my lawyer, had filed the official PTA discrimination complaint. The school principal had been notified. The wheels were turning. But inside the family, the tension was through the roof. That evening, I got one more text from my dad. "If you insist on continuing this nonsense, do not expect to be welcome at Christmas." At that moment, something inside me hardened. I looked at Sarah and said, "If that's how they want it, fine. But I will not back down." The following week was a blur. Amanda filed the complaint. The school principal, Mr. Ramirez, reached out to me directly. He asked to meet. I wasn't sure what to expect. I was ready for defensiveness, excuses, you name it. But when I walked into his office, he shook my hand and said, "Tom, first, I want to apologize. I've reviewed what you submitted. This should not have happened." He explained that an internal investigation was already underway regarding the PTA's actions. And he promised that, going forward, Logan and Macy would be fully included in all school activities. Hearing that was an enormous relief. I almost cried right there in his office. But it wasn't enough. See, by this point, the whole PTA situation was the talk of the school. Parents were whispering in the parking lot. Teachers were tiptoeing around it. And some people were already trying to spin the narrative. Guess who was leading that charge? Yep, Jessica. I knew I had to get ahead of it. So when the next Parent-Teacher Association meeting came up, an open forum, I decided to speak. Publicly. Sarah was nervous, but she supported me. Amanda gave me pointers. Stick to facts. Be calm. Be clear. Don't let them bait you. I practiced what I'd say 100 times. But when I stood up at that meeting, hands shaking, my heart still pounded like crazy. And this is, roughly, what I said. "Hi, I'm Tom. Many of you know me. My son Logan is in 5th grade. My daughter Macy is in 2nd grade. I want to talk about something that's been happening in this community. No child should ever be excluded from school events because they don't fit someone's image of the ideal student. No parent should be quietly pushed out of volunteer roles for the same reason. We are a public school. We have an inclusion policy. And I'm here to say that policy matters. All of our kids matter. I've filed a formal complaint because this is no longer about one family. It's about making sure every child here is treated with respect and fairness." After I finished, there was this heavy silence. Then a couple of parents, people I barely knew, actually clapped. Others nodded. A few looked uncomfortable. And then, right on cue, Jessica stood up. She started pushing this whole, "we're just trying to maintain standards" narrative. That some kids are harder to manage at official events. That parents should understand when they're not the best fit. I swear, my blood was boiling, but I kept my mouth shut after that. I'd said what I came to say. The meeting ended in chaos. Parents were arguing in the hall afterward. Some of them came up to me quietly and said, "Thank you for speaking. We've dealt with similar things." It was like this hidden undercurrent had finally come to the surface. Of course, the fallout at home was immediate. That night, my mom texted, "How dare you air family issues at school? You're humiliating us." Jessica emailed me directly. "You've made an enemy out of me, Tom. This won't end well for you. But you know what? For the first time, I wasn't scared. Because I finally saw that other parents were watching, listening, and many of them were on our side. I told Sarah, we've cracked their perfect image. They're scrambling now. And Christmas? Yeah, Christmas was about to get very different. After that PDA meeting, everything changed. At home, the tone from my parents went from cold to downright hostile. It still hurt. It really hurt. A few days later, I got the text from my dad again. If you insist on making this public, you are not welcome at the family Christmas. Do not come. That was it. No conversation. No discussion. Just a flat-out banishment. I stared at it for a long time. Sarah read it over my shoulder and said quietly, honestly, maybe that's a blessing. She was right. Logan had been talking about decorating Grandpa's tree. Macy had already picked out a present for Grandma. I sat the kids down that night, told them gently, we're going to do something different this year. We're having our own special Christmas, right here at home. They were confused at first. Logan asked, aren't we going to the ranch? Macy looked a little teary, but Sarah and I made it a mission. We would make this the best Christmas they'd ever had. We invited friends, neighbors, even a few relatives who quietly told me they supported what I was doing, including Emily, my cousin, and her family. We got a huge tree, put lights all over the house. Let the kids pick their favorite decorations. Our tree was a chaotic, colorful mess, and I loved it. Sarah baked enough cookies for an army. Logan and Macy helped with everything. Christmas morning, the house was full of laughter. The kids were bouncing off the walls. Friends came over with their kids. The place was alive. And you know what? For the first time in years, I wasn't walking on eggshells. There was no tension, no fake smiles, no whispering about which kid was too loud or which one didn't fit the perfect image. Just joy. Just real family, chosen family. That night, after the kids were in bed, Sarah and I sat by the tree with a glass of wine. She said, you realize, we don't ever have to go back. Not if this is what we can build instead. And I realized she was right. I felt lighter than I had in months. Meanwhile, word was getting out. More parents at school were asking questions. Jessica was trying hard to spin the narrative, but cracks were showing. And soon, the school itself would make a move that shook everything even more. By January, the school's internal investigation was in full swing. Amanda kept me updated, and so did Mr. Ramirez, the principal. He was very careful about what he could officially say, but he made it clear. We take this seriously. There will be outcomes. Meanwhile, Jessica was starting to unravel. At PDA events, she was noticeably tense. Parents who had once followed her lead were keeping their distance. I heard through the grapevine that some were furious about how she'd weaponized the committee. She tried hard to spin it, claimed I was blowing things out of proportion, that Tom is just bitter about family stuff. But too many people had seen the letter. Too many had heard me speak at the meeting. Then the big moment came. In late January, I got a formal email from the school. Dear Mr. Last Name, following a thorough investigation, the PDA will undergo restructuring this semester to ensure compliance with our inclusion policies. We sincerely apologize for any harm caused. Your children are valued members of this school community and will be fully included in all school activities. A separate letter was sent to all PDA members, announcing a PDA reorganization. Certain board members would be transitioned out. In other words, Jessica lost her spot. When I saw that email, I can't even describe the feeling. Relief, validation, and yeah, a bit of triumph. I read it out loud to Sarah. She hugged me and whispered, you did it. You protected them. And here's what mattered most. Logan and Macy were now fully included. Logan got to help run the basketball booth at the rescheduled school fair. Macy's art was selected for the school showcase, something that would never have happened before. At home, the kids were thriving. They didn't know all the politics behind the scenes. They just knew they were being treated fairly again. That's all I'd ever wanted. Of course, the fallout in the family was ugly. My mom sent another message pleading this time. Tom, can't we move past this? It's family. You've made your point. Just let it go. And my dad? Radio silence. Not a word. Jessica? She sent me one final email. Congratulations. I hope you're happy ruining your children's relationship with their family. But here's the thing. They had already done that themselves. After the school decision, things finally settled. At least a little. Jessica's influence at school was gone. The PDA was rebuilding. Logan and Macy were happier, thriving really. It felt like we could breathe again. But there was still the looming question, what about the family? The texts from my mom kept coming, shifting between guilt-tripping and pleading. Tom, your father is very upset. Don't you want the kids to know their grandparents? We can't undo what happened, but we can move on. For a while, I didn't respond. I wasn't sure what to say, or if there was even anything worth saying. Then one night, after the kids were asleep, Sarah and I sat down at the kitchen table. I asked her, do you think I should try? Should we give them another chance? She thought for a long time, then said, only if they can accept our kids. Fully. No conditions. No adult circle stuff. No side picnics. If they can't do that, then no. That's when I knew what I had to do. I drafted one final message to my mom and dad. Until our children are treated as full and equal members of this family, without exception, we will not be attending family events or gatherings. They deserve respect, inclusion, and love. Not to be hidden, judged, or separated. This is not negotiable. If and when that changes, we are open to a real conversation. But not before. I sent it. No long explanation. No argument. Just the truth. And for the first time in this whole mess, I felt at peace. A week later, my mom replied, I'm sorry you feel this way. We hope you'll reconsider. Translation, no accountability, no change. And that sealed it. Sarah and I decided, for now, no more family events. We won't take the kids where they're not wanted. We won't pretend anymore. We'll build our own family, the one our kids deserve. It wasn't an easy choice. It still isn't. But it's the right one. And the truth is, we're happier this way. Logan and Macy are surrounded by people who value them, who see them for who they are. That's worth everything. It's been about 6 months since I sent that final message. At first, I kept expecting the phone to buzz, for my dad to show up at the shop, for my mom to make some grand gesture. But none of that happened. Aside from the one cold reply from my mom, they've been silent. And honestly, that's fine, because life on this side of it, life without the constant judgment and exclusion, is better. We've filled our home with people who actually want to be there. Emily, my cousin, and her family come over all the time now. Some of the parents from the school, ones I barely knew before, have become friends. The kids have new playmates, new experiences. Logan is thriving at school. He got picked for a leadership project this spring, something Jessica once said he was too wild for. Macy's artwork got selected for a district-wide exhibit. She was so proud she almost burst. And at home, the difference is like night and day. The kids laugh more. They're more confident. They're not asking anymore when we're going to grandma's, or why we weren't invited to the ranch. They know, and they know it's not about them. Sarah and I have been very honest with them, in an age-appropriate way. We told them, some people make bad choices. That's not your fault. You are loved exactly as you are. And that's the truth. As for us, Sarah and I are closer than ever. That Christmas we did on our own, we're making it a tradition. We've already got plans for this year's, with friends and chosen family. I'm not going to lie, sometimes it still stings. When I see old family photos pop up on Facebook. When I hear through the grapevine about a birthday party we weren't invited to. But every time I start to doubt, I look at my kids, at how free and joyful they are now. And I know, we made the right call. If you told me a year ago that this is where we'd be, cut off from my parents and sister, building our own version of family, I would have said no way. I spent most of my life believing that no matter how messy things got, family holds together. But here's what I've learned. Family isn't about blood. It's about who shows up, who sees you, who loves you, without conditions. I spent so many years trying to earn a place in my parents' world, trying to get them to see me, and then later, to see my kids as worthy of their version of family. And no matter how hard I tried, it was never enough. You know what finally broke me free? Realizing that my kids are enough. They don't need to change. I don't need to change. We just needed to stop trying to fit into a space that was built to exclude us. And once we did that, life got better. So if anyone reading this is going through something similar, if your family is treating your children like they don't belong, or making you feel less than, here's what I'd say. Backhand index pointing right, you are not crazy for noticing it. Backhand index pointing right, you are not wrong for protecting your kids. Backhand index pointing right, you do not have to keep exposing them, or yourself, to people who refuse to love them fully. It's scary to set boundaries. It hurts to walk away. But sometimes walking away is the kindest, bravest thing you can do for your kids and for yourself. I used to think breaking the family was the worst possible outcome. But now I see. The family was already broken. We just stopped pretending. And in doing that, we've built something better. A home where Logan and Macy can be themselves. Where they are celebrated, not tolerated. If my parents or sister ever truly change, if they ever come with genuine accountability and love, the door is open. But until then, we are doing just fine. More than fine. And I wouldn't trade that for anything.